It can be gaming, it can be music, it can be creativity, like whatever it is. I recommend that you find your thing. And the way to find that thing is by learning and exploring. It's not just going to come to you and hit you. Like you have to go through that process. And then after you figure out what that thing is, it's starting before you're ready.
Hey everyone, I'd like to welcome you to another episode of the Brand Power Analysis. Today I have Kirby Porter on. Kirby, tell me a little bit more about yourself.
Yes, thank you for having me. I'm Kirby Porter. I'm the founder of New Game Labs, where my mission is to help sports creators grow as business leaders and entrepreneurs. I played basketball in college at Harvard. I started my career in sports marketing and venture capital and was always creating content out of passion along the way. And then in 2022, I decided to take that passion a step further with New Game Labs. So that's what I'm doing today.
Nice. I love it. I love it. So what made you kind of decide to take that leap? I think that's something that is going to be the hence of this podcast channel, especially with a lot of the information that we both utilize to help educate other creators out there in the sports world. But why don't you kind of give a guiding light on to like some of the hurdles or the leaps that have helped you kind of take that next step in the evolution of your purpose?
Yeah, thank you for asking. I think things happen before they happen, right? So like I started before I became an entrepreneur, I started a podcast 3 years or 4 years prior. I did not start that podcast with the intent of becoming a founder eventually, but starting and pursuing that passion early on, I started to build a really great network of a lot of the people that I work with today. I started to really grow my brand that really set up future job opportunities and the business opportunities that I have today. I built skills. A core part of my business today is podcasting. I learned how to build things from 0 to 1, which is what being an entrepreneur is time and time again. So I say that things happen before they actually happen, because starting that podcast was kind of like a training ground. And so I really encourage people, whether you have entrepreneurial aspirations or not. I actually did not start my career thinking that I would be a founder one day. But whether you do or not, like, create things as a way to grow and develop yourself professionally.
Yeah, I think that's the spectrum of a lot of things in life, especially with entrepreneurship. The fear of failure and kind of setting out and afraid that I'm not going to start it because I'm not going to do this. But as you're aware, I mean, you went into a podcast not realizing what you were going to kind of do later on. I mean, I feel like I kind of have the same spectrum. I was in the corporate world for years in the sports realm, and I didn't know I was going to become a business owner. And then it just kind of happened. But it was those learning experiences, I think, along the way that you're like, you know what, like, I enjoy this.
Yeah, yes, exactly. Exactly. And you don't know what you will enjoy until you try new things. So I think that's why creating also opens up your mind to different opportunities and career paths and things that you might have discounted before. I think through starting that podcast, I was doing so much research on athletes in business and athletes in tech and athletes in venture capital. I started my career at PepsiCo in sports and brand marketing. I did not ever think I would, one, work in venture capital, two, be a founder, as I just said. So I think starting that kind of gave me just a broader way to think about the applications of my skill sets as a marketer.
Yeah. What do you feel like you've learned? Because you've been in business now full time for what is it, about a year now? Year and a half?
As an entrepreneur,
Yes.
yes.
Yes. And through that time, how much do you feel like you've learned in just that year and a half compared to the corporate world?
So much. I mean, I learned so much in both of my first jobs. Like, both of those experiences gave me so much learning and like resources and network to help what I'm doing today as a founder. But like the speed at which you learn as a founder is crazy, because it's filled of like figuring it out every single day.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Every single day. And
Yeah.
so Yeah, I think that was something I was like reflecting on at the end of last year. Like, wow, I have learned and grown a lot as a person and as a professional.
Yeah, let's dive into that mental health side a little bit, especially with being a sports in sports and an entrepreneur in itself. I think more so than ever. I like to get your take on this because I personally have, that same feeling that you got where you're like, oh, I went back. You have this weird feeling like you're like, I haven't done that much, and then you look back in a whole year and you're like, well, maybe I did. Maybe it just didn't happen as the same way that I thought it would. So how do you, how do you really work through with yourself on, really just not putting so much pressure on yourself?
Oh, that's a great question. And to that point, what I started this year is I am now starting a tracker of key moments that are happening. And I
Oh,
feel that, I mean, I already journal every day and every night and after every week of business, but um, I felt the same thing at the end of last year. I felt like I didn't even realize how much had happened, and I had to go through my calendar week by week. And I made sure to document it just so I could see how much I had grown. And that's an exercise I recommend a lot of people do. Like, you will actually see, like, oh, wow, a lot of progress was made. So this year, I'm like, every single week, I'm sitting down and I'm writing key moments from that week. But yeah, mental health wise, I think that is just an important thing to keep in mind and keep top priority as you're building your business, because like, especially as a creator, a lot of creators are solo founders or solopreneurs. They have support and they have things that they outsource and things of that nature, but um like, you are your business, not in the sense that like the business is like your name and like it's all about you, but like if you are not healthy and you are not feeling inspired and you're not feeling creative, that's going to show up in your work. So I definitely take that like as seriously heading into year two, just like, all right, I'm not a workhorse. Humans are not built to work 24/7 every single day of every single year. And I need to go out and get inspired. I need to take walks. I need to see my friends. I need to come home often. I was doing these things before, but just
yeah,
like
yeah.
not feel guilty when I do them now.
And I
Because
think that's one of the hardest things. I mean, I'm 5.5, close to 6 years in, and sometimes that stuff gets lost, but
mm,
your mindset does. That's the one thing that I feel like isn't as emphasized in the marketplace of entrepreneurship is the mindset shifts that take place to get to one step or another, because sometimes you start holding yourself back with certain things because you learn certain things, but then you realize, well, things need to change. And I've had to do something very similar, again, like go back, because I was at the beginning like you, like, oh, doing this. And I think even 3 to 4 years in or 5 years in, that same stuff. So it is very important. I agree with you. Like, I have morning routine. I have a small family now, so I have a morning routine that I try to stick by. I have my work time, and then I have my family time at the end of the day, but also not putting pressure on yourself when some of those things get intermingled a little bit. And I think that's
yes.
hard. Like you said, we work from home. Or even if you have an office, either way, like, it's harder to separate that mental side of, oh man, I forgot to send that email, or, oh, I didn't close that sale, or, oh, my monetization isn't happening as fast as I thought it would. Like, what do I need to change? Like, and yoga, meditate. I try to meditate a lot. Yeah, that's your journaling. I would take it is writing down your journals and stuff like that. I mean, I have a business developer, and I just got on a routine again of tracking my daily goals, like you said, because if I don't track them now, then I'm not going to be able to track them,
Yep.
a year from now.
Yep.
So no, that's great. And so you and I have a lot in common with some of the things that we like to preach to people. I think I more so try to go at it from the aspect of, for athletes, for instance, on looking at their career as more of a business. But I think it's very similar to how you kind of help with the content creation side and helping athletes taking that leap. So why don't you talk to me a little bit more about even within your own journey, but some of the things that you have seen that athletes can do to, or even someone in the sports industry can start doing if they want to be a content creator, that they can start doing right now that you feel is probably a first good step.
Yeah, I think the first step to being a great creator is being a great learner. So every creator that is able to go consistently for years and years and years on end, I bet you they are a great learner because ideas don't just like come out of nowhere, right? They don't just like fall in your lap. Like you have to go find out what is that thing for you? Like what is that thing that you love learning about, you love talking about, or you love connecting with people around? Like what is that? For me, that was athletes in business. It just shows up in different ways throughout my career and throughout my creative projects. For some people, it might be investing, it might be athletes and VC, it might be athletes in tech. It doesn't have to be athlete related either. It can
Mhm.
be gaming, it can be music, it can be creativity. Like whatever it is, I recommend that you find your thing. And the way to find that thing is by learning and exploring. It's not just going to come to you and hit you. Like you have to go through that process. And then after you figure out what that thing is, it's and like starting to build the habit of communicating either what you find interesting or what can help people from what you're learning. Because I feel like a lot of people wait until they set up the podcast, or they wait until they like sign up for Substack or Beehive and have the newsletter ready, or they wait until they have the perfect website. But starting before you're ready and building an audience and momentum and rapport that, hey, I talk about these things and I'm passionate about these things and I help people around these things. When you launch the podcast or when you launch the business or the newsletter, it is going to go up and to the right versus you just pop out one day 2 years later after you discovered your passion with a podcast and you're like, hey, come support this. It's a different dynamic. And so I think that's something a lot of great creators do. It's like they just start the moment they are inspired and then they stay consistent with it.